Region Europe is the international program of the University of Turin, pursuing a comprehensive knowledge of the European model of regional integration and of the EU as a global actor. The involvement of 45 guest lecturers coming from all across the world's most prestigious universities and institutions allows us to bring fresh and critical perspectives on crucial issues concerning European integration and the role of the EU in world affairs, with a forward-looking approach. We want to introduce you to how the EU actually works from its beating heart, visiting its institutions and interacting with its actors. From its first edition, each year Region Europe has given the opportunity to more than 150 students coming from all over the world to gather and exchange views and experiences.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Brussels, where the sun is not shining tonight, unfortunately. It's a rainy day in Brussels. I just changed the picture. Now, what you see behind me, it's the Europa building in the heart of the European Quarter. This is where the European summits take place. And there will be a summit meeting tonight, by the way, a special summit on the coronavirus crisis, but leaders will not gather in this building tonight because it will be an informal video summit. Obviously, the infection rates here in Brussels are too high, so leaders prefer not to come to Brussels, to stay at home, safe at home, and to talk by video phone, like we are doing right now. I hope that everybody can hear and understand me. Everybody can see me. Yeah. I see one of you, Marta, hello, ciao. All the others are hidden behind their screens. No worry. Yeah, okay. So let's go. Giovanni already introduced me. It's true that I have been working in Brussels for 16 years now. I arrived here in 2004. In the first place, I worked with the German economic newspaper Handelsblatt. And since some years, I've decided to work as a freelancer on my own for several supports. Taz, Foco, Cicero, you already mentioned it. And I have my own blog. You can have a look. It's in German, unfortunately, at lostineu.eu, if you like it. It's German only. Unfortunately, some pages are in English too. So I'm writing on a daily basis on European affairs. And I'm trying to have a really European view and angle, and not just a German one. That's a little bit different for everybody who is working here. Some people try just to translate the German views of the European Union, and others try to gather French, Belgian, Italian and other views. That's what I'm doing, but it's not always simple. So if you believe that I'm too German-minded, just tell me, perhaps we can discuss it. All right, so my subject today is a big issue, a big question. Can Germany make the European Union strong again? That was not basically my idea, but it was the idea of the German government, which has the rotating council presidency since the 1st of July, as Giovanni already mentioned it. And the official slogan is, I just have to check, make European Union strong again, gemeinsam Europa wieder stark machen. So all together, let us be united and strong again. That would be the official slogan, and I put it with a question mark. Will Germany manage to do that? I will try now just to show you my notes. Yes, here we are. I hope it works. Can you see it?
Yeah,
you can see it. Okay, so here we are. You can see my abstract. I will start by talking about the German role in the European Union, some general reflections. Then I will try to make a short presentation of the German presidency and its priorities. Afterwards, we will switch to a short, brief assessment after 4 months of German leadership. It started in July, now it's already the 4th month. Finally, I will make some remarks on the COVID-19 crisis and give an outlook on the current debate in Germany on domestic issues and regional issues, as this is your study, your studies. I think it could be interesting for you. And if we have enough time, we will try, or I will try to make some conclusions and we will debate it. So everything is fine. I can go. Yeah. All right. So some general reflections on the German role in the European Union. As you may know, or I'm sure that you know, Germany is the biggest and most powerful member of the European Union. Germany has the most experienced and respected head of government, Mrs. Merkel. And Germany designed the current treaty of the European Union, the so-called Lisbon Treaty, which was conceived in Berlin with the Berlin Declaration. This was already under Merkel leadership. Germany now, the last month, was emboldened by good performance in the first wave of the COVID-19 crisis. So now many people, many experts believe that Germany can serve as an example for other countries with regards to this crisis, especially, for example, to Belgium or France, perhaps also to Italy, even if Italy has done better in the last few weeks than in springtime. Then it is important to know that Germany had a special relationship with UK and France. So until the Brexit referendum, the United Kingdom was kind of the most important partner for Germany, for Mrs. Merkel in the European Union. She had a very close relationship with David Cameron, and she tried to manage the union together with the UK and some smaller member states, such as the Netherlands. On the other hand, we always had, since Adenauer and de Gaulle, we always had and always have the special relationship and the friendship with France. But France was not so important for Germany in the last years, even as President Macron tried to enhance the relationship and the friendship. But until recently, Chancellor Merkel did not really want to cooperate with Macron on important issues. This has changed, fortunately, in the springtime with the debate on the recovery fund and the reform of the European Union. But I will get back to this later. So I think all this can illustrate the importance of Germany in the European Union. But there are some caveats, some buts. You may know them if you study European politics or German history. German is often called a reluctant hegemon. Germany does not really want to lead Europe or the European Union. This is of course, for sure, for historical reasons. We Germans do not want to be leaders or Führer again. This is a very bad memory for most of us. But it has, of course, a commercial or economic reason too. If you lead, you have to pay. Huh? And this is what Germans don't want to do neither. Then Germany was a long time considered as a free rider in international politics. For example, with regards to open markets, to defense and migration. I think in Italy, you know this issue very well, migration. for a very long time, migrants, boat people came from the Mediterranean to Italy, but they could not really enter Germany because Germany said, with regards to the Dublin Treaty, this is your business and none of our business. This has changed, of course, in 2015. But until this time, Germany was really a free rider. So countries like Italy, Spain, Greece had to bear all the problems and the trouble with migration, and Germany did not want to help out and to participate. And until now, we have this debate on defense. Does Germany pay its equal part on defense, especially in NATO? And you might know that President Trump in the United States pushes for a higher contribution, especially from Germany, to the defense budget in NATO. Then another setback, that was the Brexit referendum back in 2016. This was really a major setback for Germany, which relied on London and on Mr. Cameron until this time. Another even harder blow was the Trump election, because the United States are a very important international partner for Germany. Especially a commercial partner, but also a political partner. And this has radically changed with Mr. Trump. Germany is now used by him as a scapegoat, and he is accusing Germany of all bad that he finds in Europe, especially in NATO, but also on commerce, for example, trade and commerce. And then another point that is important to know, that Germany and even Chancellor Merkel was very reluctant to reform in the last years. Germany did not really want to reform its own economy. All the reform efforts were made by the former Chancellor Schröder, so the predecessor for Mrs. Merkel. And there was also kind of reluctance to reform the European Union. French President Macron continuously pushed for reform of the European Union, and Mrs. Merkel resisted to this push until recently. And I believe this is because the status quo was until recently very good for Germany, for German business, for German trade, but also for German politics in Europe. All this is changing right now, but it is important to bear this in mind. So these were my general reflections on the German role in the European Union. I don't know if we already have some questions. Perhaps I might take one or two questions in this case. No? Where am I now?
Yeah, I don't know. What happens?
No, you are seeing a wrong picture, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe you can try to close or to interrupt the sharing.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know why I do not come back to the main window.
yes, of course, Elisa is ready to jump in and to solve all our problems.
Yeah, just trying to understand what's going on. So I would suggest to, as Professor Finizzi, to close the sharing window and try again, because it looks like you're trying to share an application. You didn't allow WebEx to show. Okay.
Yeah.
So try and stop sharing the screen. There should be a panel on the top of the screen saying in, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, there we are. I'm sorry, I didn't see the panel in the first place. So if there are any questions, I could take them right now. Otherwise, I would switch to the second chapter.
I
No
think
questions? Okay, all right.
Okay, let's go ahead, I would suggest, yeah.
Yeah. So we go ahead. Now, I would like to introduce you to the German presidency of the European Union and its priorities. I already mentioned the slogan, the official slogan, Gemeinsam Europa wieder stark machen. In English, that would be make the European Union strong again. And of course, this slogan was conceived against the background of the crisis the European Union went through in spring. And also with regards to Italy and France, because there has been kind of a split between these countries and Germany. You will remember March when the European Union was discussing common financial instruments for supporting the crisis countries or the countries hit very strongly by the crisis, such as Italy. And in the first place, Germany was very reluctant to help. This changed after some time, of course. But now the German presidency promised to make the European Union strong and united again. And some people, even Chancellor Merkel in Berlin, spoke about a Corona presidency. That means that Germany would like to heal the wounds of this Corona crisis and would like to make sure that the European Union will not split. This was the main task conceived for the 6 months until the month of December. Then there we have, of course, some political priorities. The first, the absolute priority was to safeguard not only the European Union, but especially the single market and the free movement of goods. So it's a common opinion in Berlin that the common market was in real danger in March and in April with all the shutdowns of the frontiers. Germany closed its borders too. And so the German government decided to act and to make sure that the internal market will be safeguarded. And the free movement of goods too, which is very important for Germany, of course, as an export nation. The focus is not so much on Schengen, by the way, and the free movement of people or on travel. As you know, there have been many travel warnings and travel bans in Germany in the last few months. Italy was not so much concerned, but for example, Belgium was very much concerned. I had much pain to go to Berlin, for example. From Brussels, it has become practically impossible because of all the measures and travel bans set out in Berlin. And even the work of the European institutions have become very difficult because the German government decided to stop all travel by German officials to the Commission or to the Parliament and even sometimes to the Council. So Brussels is kind of isolated from Germany right now. The German presidency is basically working from Berlin and from the Chancellery, the Kanzleramt. So this is just to illustrate that Schengen and the free movement of people was not so much a priority for Germany, but rather the single market. And I guess that Chancellor Merkel will talk about this tonight at the special EU summit as well. The second priority was China. Merkel wanted to hold a China summit in Leipzig in September, but finally she had to cancel it officially due to COVID-19. But behind the scenes, you can hear that the negotiations on an investment treaty or agreement did not go very well. They were not very advanced in September, and it was postponed. And finally, it has been cancelled all over. The German presidency would have liked to have a special China-EU summit in December in Berlin, but this summit has been cancelled too. But nevertheless, this was the second priority of the German presidency. And the third one was to achieve a managed Brexit. And this is still a work in progress. As you know, the negotiations between London and Brussels are going on, or they have been lagging for some time, and now they have been taken in again. And hopefully there will be a result in the next few days. But it seems not so likely that there will be an ambitious European Union friendly free trade deal as Merkel would have liked it. Some people argue even that a no deal is more probable. I don't know. It is. We do not have much information right now here in Brussels. We have to wait and see until the negotiators get out of the so-called tunnel, the tunnel of negotiations, a secret tunnel where you cannot see much light until it's over. So this basically these are the main priorities of the German presidency. Of course, there were talks about the election, the presidential election in the United States, the importance of transatlantic relationships. There were talks about migration, the new migration pact that the European Commission has presented, and many other things, but these are not really priorities. For example, on migration, you can hear in Berlin that diplomats will tell you, we are already happy if we have a proposal by the Commission, which is now on the table, and if the Council starts talking about it. And that's all. Nobody expects really a deal on migration in this year under German presidency. Everybody would be glad if this Corona crisis could be managed in a reasonable way without losses of human life and without a split in the European Union, and if the Brexit would be concluded by a fair deal, and that would be already a great achievement for the German presidency. China put aside for the moment being because the meetings have been cancelled. So where do we stand now after 4 months of the German presidency? Well, it did not go very far, I'm afraid to say. The first goal, which was safeguarding the internal market and safeguarding a deal on the European Union budget, was achieved with an historical summit meeting in July. I guess you know the results. So there will be a new budget for the European Union for 7 years, which amounts to around about 1 billion euros. Billion or trillion? I'm not sure now. Right now, billion, I guess. Because it's not the same in German. I always confound. And we will have a new Corona fund, a so-called recovery fund, which is financed by European debt for the first time at that scale, and which will be distributed not only through credits, but also by cash, if you want. So the money will be handed out to states and governments, and these governments do not have to pay it back. And this is in the first place, very controversial measure, but which is important because if you hand it out as a credit, it will, of course, mean that the states in question create more debt and have to pay it back sometimes later, which might impact on their credit ratings. That might have a negative impact. Now, the German presidency made sure that we have an extra budget for the recovery, which should be in place in the beginning of 2021, and that the money is handed out not only as credits, so that it can really give an important push for countries in difficulty like Spain, Italy, perhaps France, Belgium, and others. We will wait and see. So this first goal is achieved, but not secured yet, because there are ongoing debates with the European Parliament. The European Parliament has to give its go, and it has still some important objections, for example, with regards to the rule of law, and with regards to health budget, for example, which was cut, the health budget on the European Union level, which was cut, and the Parliament wants to have more money for this important budget. The second goal, China, I already mentioned it, was missed. The third goal, the Brexit deal, is still work in progress. We do not have a deal yet. And we can observe rising tensions in foreign policy right now. I just mentioned Turkey, Greece, Cyprus, now France too, and the war in Armenia, between Armenia and Azerbaijan. With this regards, Germany was not very successful. The tensions are rising, and critics say that Germany does not really care, does not really try to bring Greece, Cyprus, France, and Turkey together, because obviously Germany is trying to push for a positive agenda with a new or renewed migration deal with Turkey, and of course sanctions, for example, against Turkey, sanctions that are demanded by Greece and Cyprus would harm this objective. But tensions are also rising with Russia and even with the United States of America with regards to the highly controversial gas pipeline Nord Stream 2. And then finally, I'm afraid I have to say that we have, for the moment, been kind of a defeat on COVID-19 crisis. The German presidency did not really work on health issues. And the first meeting will be on this crisis will be held only tonight, so 4 months after the start of the German presidency. And this is unfortunate, as the crisis is very deep right now. Even Germany has had to put up a new lockdown light, as you might know. The decision came in yesterday. The figures are going up, and we do not really know where we are heading. There is no clear strategy, neither for Germany nor for the European Union on this issue. So we have to wait and see and hope the best for the crisis summit tonight. Now, how are all these issues being debated in Germany? I have to say that the German presidency is not very present in the German debate, in the German public. You cannot find many news articles or TV sessions on the German presidency of the Council. There have been very little number of public declarations. The health minister Spahn, for example, he did not really talk about European Union yet. And this is not really a big issue. So we did not have big events or press and media meetings with regards to the German presidency. Of course, all the work is overshadowed by the COVID-19 crisis, and all the events that were already scheduled, or most of the events had to be cancelled due to this crisis. This is an explanation which is easy to make, but nevertheless it's a problem because the German public is not well aware that we are currently having a German presidency. On the other hand, the major issue, of course, is the COVID-19 crisis. This is there we have a really big debate in Germany, and this is not going down very well neither, unfortunately. The dissatisfaction with the handling of the crisis in Germany was growing in summer. So we had big crowds in Berlin gathering just before the Reichstag, as you may have seen on television, and protesting against the security measures with regards to COVID-19. And we had the far right mobilizing against Chancellor Merkel and growing tensions in several regions of Germany on this issue. Now the situation has changed a bit because Germany is entering in a second lockdown light. It is not a real lockdown, by the way. The companies, the economy is not shut down. You still may move from one place to another. You still may quit your apartment or your house. But restaurants are closed, cafes are closed, hotels may not take tourists in anymore, and the contacts are limited to really nearly nothing. One family may just meet another family right now from the 1st of November on, and not more. So for Germany, this feels like a severe lockdown, even if it is not a real lockdown. And on this, surprisingly, there has been a broader political consensus. There has been a meeting with the Chancellor Merkel yesterday in Berlin, and all the presidents of the regions, the so-called Ministerpräsidenten, agreed to these measures. No region put a veto. But on the other hand, we see now a split among the scientific community in Germany. Until recently, all experts, all scientific people agreed with all the measures Merkel and the regions had taken. But now, for the first time, we have two camps, one camp for stricter measures and another one that is saying, basically, this is going too far, and it is also a problem for democracy and for the rule of law, and we have to take in the parliaments, and we should not go so far as to decide a partial or a light lockdown right now. This is an open debate which is new in Germany. We did not have it before. And today, Chancellor Merkel was even obliged to go to the Bundestag, so to the German parliament, in order to defend new measures and to reassure the deputies of the Bundestag. So for the first time in this crisis, she seems to be on the defensive, as she promised not to allow a new lockdown to happen, by the way. This was common sense until September that France, Italy, or Belgium might suffer from this crisis, but not Germany. Germany was doing well until then, but these things have changed. So to conclude, the presidency tried to make Europe stronger, but it did not, until now, really manage to do so. What we see is that Germany has been getting stronger because of the good handling of the corona crisis in spring and in summertime, but it did not share or project this newly gained power in the health sector to the whole of Europe. And what we see now is that Europe economically, but also on health issues, is falling behind China and the United States. And this is really sad and really bad news, which means that Germany did not yet deliver on its promise to make the European Union stronger and more united. The only tangible result until now, the recovery fund, is still hanging in the balance with the discussions going on with the European Parliament, and the final vote is not yet to be seen. I don't know when it will come, perhaps next week, perhaps even later. It is already clear that the recovery fund will start later than foreseen. Later in January, perhaps in February, and we don't know when the first funds will be disbursed. And now I'm afraid this is really the only tangible result until now, this recovery fund, which is not definite yet, but which will surely come. There are no doubts. I think the European Parliament finally will give its green light. But the big question is whether the European Union under German presidency can manage this new second wave of the COVID-19 crisis, and if it really will stay united. For the moment being, I cannot really see that Europe has become stronger or more united. For the moment, Germany has become stronger, and it's struggling right now to keep the 27 member states together and united. So far, this is what I wanted to tell you tonight, and now I hope for a lively debate. Thank you very much.
Okay, so thank you very much, Eric, and now we can open the floor to students and to participants. And of course, you can use the chat or your microphone. And so the first question is from me. That is, could you go back a bit to China, for example? Mm-hmm. That is in your opinion, is Germany promoting or hindering unity and European unity vis-a-vis China and Russia, that is vis-a-vis big powers? Because, you know, Germany has always been, or often been accused of being commercially driven. That is, the German foreign policy has been accused of being commercially driven. That is, you know, let's pursue our national economic interests and then you know, forget the rest. That is, if you take, for example, relations with Russia, the German approach towards Russia, for example, as far as the energetic issue is concerned. The German approach has been divisive in Europe. For example, let's take the Nord Stream, for example, and so on. So, okay, so if the slogan, if the motto of the German presidency is to make the European Union strong again, what does it mean in terms of what is Germany doing to promote unity, but not as such in Europe, but vis-a-vis big powers, that is China, Russia, and so on?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is a really an important question. With regards to China, you are right. For many years, China had a special commercial relationship with Germany. China was kind of most important market for German car producers, for example. And China was an important economic engine for German producers, for German exports. And this went so far as that the German government as a whole went to Peking to meet the government, the communist government over there, and to dialogue with them. All alone, only the whole of the German government, no European Union representatives on that trip. This was a very common exercise until recently, under the leadership of Mrs. Merkel. Now, there has been kind of an awakening with regards to China, because China tried to take over some important German enterprises. And Germany woke up and saw that the economic cooperation with China would or could have caused some troubles too, and has some negative impact on the German economy and politics too. Now, on the other hand, Germany is aware that there has been some split in the European Union on the question how to handle China. So, for example, in Berlin, many people consider that Italy is far too positive with regards to China. And we have seen in March that China delivered health goods to Italy, equipment and so on, at a time when Germany was reluctant to do so. And has acknowledged that this was a mistake and that they had to work on this issue. So to conclude, Germany now tries to take everybody into account, all 27 European Union members, and to find a common position vis-à-vis China. And in order to manage this, Chancellor Merkel wanted to organize this EU-China summit, but under German presidency in a German town in the eastern region of Germany. This is quite symbolic, of course. It would have been a signal that China is an important partner for Germany in the first place, for the European Union in the second place. Now, finally, this summit could not take place, and this was perhaps fortunate for the unity of the European Union, as the Commission, the European Commission here in Brussels, took over, had a virtual summit with Peking, with the Chinese leadership, and made sure that all 27 member states were on board. And there has been a change of tone right now in Berlin too, saying that finally it is important to have everybody on board, more important perhaps than to have a deal and than to have this summit. So I think there we can see a shift in the German position for more unity. And the German presidency is really keen to have everybody on board. Which could mean some trouble for Italy, by the way, because Italy is considered to be too close an ally to China sometimes. That's perhaps funny for you, huh?
No, it is. Yeah, it is not funny. It is the point is that the government. I don't know. Maybe is not ready to do anything that is with or without China. That is, it doesn't know. It doesn't know what to do with China. That's the point at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I believe that now we are changing the attitudes in Berlin, but also in Brussels. China has for a long time been seen as just a commercial partner, and now it is considered as a rival, a strategic rival, and a systemic rival, and perhaps even more here in Brussels and in Berlin. So there's kind of an awakening that you do not have to be too naive with regards to China. The attitudes are changing, and this is a positive development, I think, of course.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so there are at least 3 questions. The first one is from Italy, from Marta. Marta, who is already there on the screen. So please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just switching topic, but I just would like to ask, taking into consideration that the situation in Belarus, so all the oppositions that there are there, what do you think that Germany can do in order to play an important role in the decisions of the EU? Because recently the EU decided to sanctionate some of the most important figures of Belarus. But for example, Tikhanovskaya asked really for Germany to enter in the discussion and help the Belarusian people. So what do you think that Germany can do?
Yeah, this is a good question, but it is difficult to answer. Germany, in the first place, pushed for sanctions against Belarus, or the leadership, the dictatorship over there. But there was an obstacle because Cyprus blocked these sanctions for some weeks, arguing that you cannot sanction a third country like Belarus if you are not willing to sanction Turkey at the same time. You may know that Turkey was provoking Cyprus and Greece with its gas and oil drillings in the Eastern Mediterranean. And Germany was keen to keep a special relationship with Turkey and not to have any sanctions against Turkey. And then Cyprus decided to block, on the other side, the sanctions against Belarus, in order to obtain sanctions against Turkey as well. This finally did not work out. This was a very hot issue for Foreign Minister Maas and Chancellor Merkel, and they managed to break the resistance of Cyprus. And now we have some sanctions against the regime in Belarus in place, but we still have no sanctions against Lukashenko. The German presidency is pushing for this too, but I'm afraid it cannot do much more. So Chancellor Merkel received the opposition at the Chancellery, and she is, of course, arguing for a dialogue. I think that many people in Berlin remember the roundtable dialogue we had at the German reunification, which was a peaceful event. The opposition and the people in power had real roundtable dialogues. But obviously, this is not possible nowadays in Belarus, in Minsk, with the military and police troops violently oppressing and suppressing protests and democratic movement. And on the other hand, there's another problem for the German presidency too. Belarus is not a country that would like to become member or ally of the European Union. Belarus is still anchored in the Russian sphere of influence, and it does not even want to turn westwards. So finally, if you want to influence on the events in Belarus, finally you should have to talk to and turn to Moscow, to President Putin in Russia. And there, as you know, the relationship is very bad right now, with fresh new sanctions against the Kremlin. There are actually no real talks and no real dialogue anymore between the German presidency and Russia. So this channel, which used to be an important power channel for Chancellor Merkel, is closed for the moment being. So I'm afraid that finally, apart from sanctions that do not really work, you cannot do much to help Belarus right now.
Okay, so there is a question from Brazil. Vinicius, I don't know. So Vinicius jotted down a question, but I don't know if he's ready to talk or not. Vinicius, are you there? Otherwise, I can read your question. Vinicius? Okay, let me read it. So you mentioned the conflict between Armenia and Azerbaijan, and from the news I learned both countries have asked German support to negotiate a ceasefire. What was and is the role of Germany in the conflict, if any?
Yeah, the German role is non-existent, I would like to say. Basically, there are three powers that have been responsible for this region in the last couple of years, which is Russia, United States of America, and France, and the so-called Minsk group. And they tried to push for a ceasefire. Russia tried so, the United States tried so, and they did not really succeed. As you know, the fighting is going on, and I believe that you have to put pressure on Turkey in the first place in order to stop fighting there. And obviously, Germany and Merkel is not willing to put pressure on Turkey with regards to this issue, which is very disturbing from my point of view, because of course, we are talking about the German presidency, and we are talking about two countries that are having cooperation agreements with the European Union. And normally, the German presidency should thrive for conflict resolution. But on this issue, Berlin is very, very silent. You can just read some tweets and some press communiques, but this is it. There is no really diplomatic activity as far as I know. Perhaps there's something going on behind the floors, but here in Brussels, we cannot see anything. And even the European Union, even Mr. Borrell, who is in charge of these kind of questions, is not very active. I had the opportunity to ask him the question, when are you going to the region finally? When are you going to push for a ceasefire? And he told me, I'm ready to go, but for the moment being, I do not see any perspective. I've got no invitation. And obviously, he does not want to take initiative on its own. So basically, nothing is happening. Basically, we have to hope for a deal which would be managed by Russia and the United States of America, I'm afraid. And with the election campaign in America right now and the upcoming election, this will take much time, I'm afraid.
Okay, Eleonora, is your turn. Please.
Thank you. So my question is, why are German politicians and media not talking about the German presidency at the national level? And maybe is that because Germany has to take very important decisions about the disbursement of the recovery funds, and so politicians are afraid to lose votes in the next election? Thank you.
Yeah, this is a difficult one. I would perhaps like to start with saying that the media coverage in Germany on European affairs is very important. So I believe that Germany is the country where you can find most of press and media coverage on the European Union and on European affairs in the whole of Europe. Whole pages are filled with articles about EU politics, decisions here in Brussels, summits, and so on.
And this interest is growing in your opinion or not?
It is not growing, but it's stable.
It's stable.
I would say, yeah. It's a very high interest, and it's much easier to publish an article in a German news support than, for example, in France. In France, the coverage is very, very low, and it's very difficult to get reliable information on the European Union.
And why, if I can ask?
Yeah, I believe that French media are more interested in domestic affairs. That's a little bit like in Italy. You know? They are still quite interested in German affairs too. You can find plenty of reports on Germany, but European Union affairs, that's another history, another story. So I believe that the reason finally is very simple. The first one is that Germany had to improvise its presidency. Everything was duly prepared from January on, and then the COVID-19 crisis hit, and Germany had to cancel most of events, most of highlights, and everything that was foreseen, and had to improvise a new program, which is not really media friendly. We do not have any big summits. We do not have any big meetings anymore with the contact restrictions. We do not have any highlights. So this is the first point. And the second one is that domestic affairs, domestic problems take the front right now, everywhere, I guess. This Corona crisis is the issue number one for everybody, you know? And it takes all of the attention. And the third reason is perhaps that the German politicians do not talk a lot or not enough about the European Union right now. They just want to talk when there are results. But for the moment being, we do not have many results. The only result we have is this recovery fund, and even this one it's not yet been decided by the European or relighted by the European Parliament. So the results are not yet coming in, and this is perhaps the third reason why we see so little coverage.
Okay, so Victor is there, ready to intervene?
Yeah.
Victor, yes.
I would like to express a brief consideration followed by a question. Many mentioned the fact that Brexit has increased the perception of German dominance, and with it added pressure to form a coalition to counterbalance its power, especially on discussion on the Eurozone. So in your opinion, has Brexit complicated and isolated Germany's role in the EU? Thank you.
Yeah, I believe that Brexit has complicated it for Germany. Yeah. In the beginning, I mentioned the special relationship that united Chancellor Merkel and the former Prime Minister of Britain, David Cameron. That was very important for both of them because they could counterbalance a little bit France, Italy, and all the southern countries that were at that time called the Club Med, as you know very well, I guess. So basically, there was kind of an alliance between Berlin and London in order to cut the budget, for example. The European Union budget in the last 7-year period was cut by Germany and the United Kingdom. It's considered that the European Union was too expensive and that the expenses had to be cut. Mrs. Merkel was not very keen to work together with France and with President Hollande at that time. That was another problem. Now that the Brexit has changed the whole power game, if you want so. Now we have two countries that are dominating the European Union, Germany and France. The United Kingdom, the third partner, is not there anymore. And now this has changed the game for Germany, of course. On one hand, it has to lead more than before because you could not put some kind of the load on the shoulders of the United Kingdom. And on the other hand, you have to work together with France much more than before. When you have three partners, as we used to have, United Kingdom, France, and Germany, you can switch. You can say, in this issue, we are going to work together with France. On that issue, we are going to work together, for example, the European Union budget, we're going to work together with the UK. Now that the UK is out, Berlin is obliged to work with Paris. You cannot really rely on, or just rely on smaller countries like the Netherlands or Finland or Sweden or Austria that are keen to work together with Germany too. And of course, there's Italy, but Italy was not really present for a very, very long time. It is about to change, I believe. I hope so. But Italy is still not as important for Germany as France is. As you may have seen in the last few months, all the important pushes for reform and for money came from France and Germany. Or from France, in the first place, France had set up a new alliance with Italy, Spain, Belgium, Luxembourg, and some other countries. Total it was 9 countries, I believe, that tried to push for the famous Euro bonds, so common debt. And Germany was, on the other hand, on the other side, together with the Netherlands, Austria, and some others. And finally, Chancellor Merkel recognized that she could not stop this initiative. She had to change her mind. She had to change the German position by 180 degrees and to find a common point of view together with France. And that is what happened. And by the way, this is interesting too, the change of position, the change of mind of Mrs. Merkel has never been really explained to the German public. It came from one day to another. Suddenly there was a Franco-German summit meeting, a virtual one, by the way, and Mrs. Merkel and President Macron announced this idea of a debt-financed recovery fund. And there it was. And then the European Commission gave some additional money, or it proposed additional money, and finally this was the deal. Italy or Spain were not on board when the deal was made. This was a Franco-German affair. So this just to explain why France has become more important for Germany with the Brexit. You cannot stop deals that France is proposing together with some allies anymore just by giving a phone call to London and saying, "Hey, David, can't you block this?" This was the game before. Now you have to deal with Macron or perhaps with Conte and others and find a solution. So on one hand, Germany now is really the most important and most powerful country in the European Union. On the other hand, it has to find allies, and it has to make compromises, as most of the other countries are not big enough and strong enough to hold the union together. And this is perhaps my last remark on this question. I mean, we were very close to a collapse of the European Union in March and April, very close. Even in Germany, business federations said they were afraid of a complete collapse of the internal market, and that Germany, the German enterprises, the German export industry could not take the risk of Italy or Spain collapsing under the burden of the COVID crisis and so on, and under the debt. This was the official standpoint of German business associations, and they pushed the German government for a more, conciliant position with regards to Italy, France, European debt, and finally the recovery bond. But this was only possible because, in my mind, because the European Union and especially the internal market was not so far from a point of no return. And I'm afraid that we could experience something like this in autumn once again. I do not know. It depends on the crisis. If it's getting much deeper again, and if Germany is overwhelmed by this COVID-19 crisis as well, I don't know where we will land. This is the problem right now. It's really a crucial problem moment once again.
Okay, so this So this was Eleonora, right? Because maybe I missed something. Eleonora or Emanuele? Emanuele, can you talk and can you pose your question, or do you want me to read?
Yes. Can you hear me, Professor?
Yeah.
Okay. It's
Yeah,
a
please.
question about the succession of Angela Merkel. In your opinion, how will this influence the German politics in Europe, and who could be the best person to continue along the way trusted by Merkel, like that of the next generation EU? That in these days I read a lot of names, for example, Friedrich Merz or Armin Laschet or Norbert Röttingen, and there is furthermore, it is possible that Merkel would change her mind if Biden wins the presidential election. Thank you.
Yeah, interesting question. Perhaps I believe that she could change her mind. We have a looming leadership crisis at the CDU, the Christian Democrats, and you already mentioned some of the contenders. So we have Friedrich Merz, we have Norbert Röttgen, and we have Armin Laschet. All of them want to lead the CDU, the Christian Democratic Party, and perhaps take over from Merkel in next autumn. And now the irony of the history is right now that the party congress that was scheduled for December has been postponed due to the coronavirus crisis. This was really a surprise for most of Germans, because until recently this crisis was not so important in Germany that you had to cancel all events. This congress has been cancelled. One of the pretenders or contenders, Mr. Merz, said that was done in order to stop him from gaining power at the head of the CDU. And this has led to an open leadership crisis at the Christian Democrats. And I don't know how it will be resolved, to be honest. Nobody knows for the moment being. I don't know if the Congress will just be postponed until January or if it will take more time. And nobody can know if Mrs. Merkel finally will change her mind and decide to go for another term. Huh? This is not excluded, I guess.
But the leader of the Greens is also very strong. What is the name? I don't remember now.
Yeah, we have two of them. Huh? We have Habeck and
Habeck. Yeah.
Yeah, Habeck, the guy, and a woman called Baerbock. Excuse me. The Green Party is very strong, but I don't believe, or for the moment being, nobody believes that they could be number one in the election of autumn 2021. Everybody suggests for the moment being that it will be a coalition between the Christian Democrats and the Green Party, finally. And then I don't know who would be number one at the head of the Greens. This is not clear yet. And as I just told you, nobody knows who will be the leader of the Christian Democrats. The only thing that is known is that Mrs. Merkel would be a good partner for the Greens, or the Greens would like to work together with Mrs. Merkel, but they don't want to work together to cooperate with Merz. So this might be a problem for the next government or the next coalition. But you should not forget Mr. Scholz, the leader of the Social Democrats. He's not leading in the polls right now, but he has a very pro-European and, let me say this, pro-Italian stance, because he argues in favor of prolonging the recovery fund, the next generation EU, as you called it, or as it is called, and he wants to make it prominent, which would be a big leap forward for the European Union and for the recovery too. And Merkel and the Christian Democrats are against this. They oppose this. The Greens, I don't know, they did not yet fix their position, but this is very important to keep this in mind. There is one important leader in Germany, Mr. Scholz, so the leader of the Social Democrats, who is currently finance minister, who is arguing for this. So for a kind of a budgetary and financial revolution of the European Union. This would be a really next generation EU, and not just something for 2 or 3 years of crisis, as Merkel conceived the recovery fund. You know this, I guess. The recovery fund is supposed to end after 3 years, and then we go back to current affairs, to the old deficit procedures, and to the old budget, which is by far smaller than what we are going to have right now.
Okay. So now a question for me about Germany and Greece, and about European economy, if you want. That is, during the Eurozone crisis, Germany was seen of course, by Greece, but also by other European countries as the Germany and the Merkel government, of course, as the orthodox and inflexible enemy of Greece and so on. So so this was because of the strong influence of Schäuble over Merkel, and has Merkel recognized that mistakes have been made with the Greece or not? So yes, what has changed?
Yeah, a very important question, I believe. No, she did not publicly recognize that she made mistakes in this crisis. But the situation has completely changed. Schäuble is not finance minister anymore, and Merkel has changed her economic doctrine, if I may say so, with the recovery fund and with European debt. This is really a turning point for Europe and for the Eurozone as well, I believe. And then we should bear in mind that she has a new finance minister, which is Mr. Scholz, so a social democrat who is on another doctrine than Schäuble was. He's more Keynesian politician, and he has new economists as counselor who are thinking more like people in France or in Italy used to think. So the old orthodox neoliberal economic thinking in Germany and even in the German finance ministry is gone, and new thinking is coming in. And I don't know if Mrs. Merkel has changed her mind on this, but she will not take the same decisions in 2020 or 21 as she did back in 2015. This is for sure. So there will be no second Greece. This is for sure.
Yeah. No, and I have a last question for you. That is, how strong, in your opinion, Merkel's influence over von der Leyen?
Nobody knows. No, to put it more seriously, they are very close. They were already close when Mrs. von der Leyen served as defense minister in Berlin. And they are close, of course, right now with the German presidency. They are talking to each other once a day or even more. This is for sure. So they are in touch and they are politically speaking close. But on European affairs, I believe that von der Leyen is much more pro-European and has much more of a European vision than Merkel ever had. Mrs. Merkel comes from the eastern part of Germany, from the ex-GDR, and she never showed so much empathy for the European Union, for the European project, as, for example, Mr. Kohl did, Chancellor Kohl did 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, no, even more. She was never an outspoken pro-European politician. And I believe that for von der Leyen is pro-European. She is not very experienced on the European level. She has some advisors that do not know very well the European Union, of course, but I believe that this couple could perhaps move things further if von der Leyen would really push for it. But this is a problem. Then we have to take the broader picture. If it were just Merkel and von der Leyen, we could have more progress. But von der Leyen depends on the European Council as a whole. So that means she depends on 27 member states and 27 heads of state and government. And then we have people like Mr. Orban from Hungary, Kaczynski in Poland, and so on and so on. Even Mr. Rutte in the Netherlands, that are blocking progress or reforms, or the reform, for example, on the rule of law. And the common thinking here in Brussels is that Mr. von der Leyen depends completely on the Council, and she cannot really act independently. And so only if Mrs. Merkel pushes for something in the Council, then von der Leyen can go ahead. And for the moment being, that has been done in July for the EU budget and the recovery fund, but I do not see much more like this coming in the next week, unfortunately.
So von der Leyen depends on Merkel through the Council.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if there are no further questions from you, from students, and I don't see any other question on the screen there. Okay. So I'd like to thank very much Eric Bonse, Mr. Eric Bonse. It was very interesting, of course, because Germany. We see Germany through through the newspapers, and the manipulations through mass media's new manipulations and so on. So thank you very much, and for joining Region Europe. And okay, and I hope to see you somewhere, to meet you somewhere, and to have you again at Region Europe. Okay.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure. I hope it was not too complicated and too negative. You should bear in mind that the German presidency is not over yet. So the first results hopefully are going to come in next week, end of October, beginning of November. Then, of course, we have to closely watch the American election and the outcome. If Mr. Trump wins again, it will be very depressing for the whole of Europe and for the German presidency, of course. But if it would be Mr. Biden, then this would be a game changer for the German presidency as well, and perhaps also for Brexit negotiations that are now perhaps on the finishing line, hopefully. So the last word can be said only in December, when the presidency is over, and hopefully we will see some more progress then. And if you are interested, you could perhaps try to tune in tonight to see what the European special summit on the coronavirus crisis decides under German leadership. I'm a little bit disappointed that it took so long until Merkel touched upon this very important issue, COVID-19. But tonight we will see what happens, and if she will manage to save Europe on this issue too.
Yes, if you can do it. Okay, okay. So students are saying vielen Dank, super, and yes, and and tschüss, Eric. Thank you very much.
Guten Abend. Ciao.
Ciao. Thank you very much. Bye.